it all starts to unravel. I think I can see why certain people won't accept the current state of affairs when it's explained, is obvious, or plenty of evidence is being presented. Once you admit one thing or understand what has been revealed, then it's like a cascade event occurs, or at least should. But I presume that there is a mechanism in some people's thought process that inhibits them from thinking it through. Because deep down they know, but it's just too awful to admit, so they detach from reality to maintain their delusion of everything being okay. Because if you start to question the methods and motives of the establishment and all its branches and see what others see, it's not a comfortable feeling, and not one that anyone would choose. But it has become starkly obvious of late that we are not being looked after, or helped, or governed. We are being hoodwinked and led astray down a very dark path. Many don't want to, or can't admit that, and many others have, and countless more are becoming aware of it daily. It's an awful realisation to know someone or something that claimed to have your safety and best interests at heart doesn't, and in fact means the opposite, to cause you and yours harm. You need to accept a number of things. Firstly, that you have been duped. Secondly, you are on your own. And thirdly, they mean you harm. It's a lot to take in and adjust your way of thinking accordingly. The feelings you firstly get from being duped don't have a timescale, and anger can linger and become destructive rather than be useful to drive you on. Instead, you get stuck. You need to work through the anger and reserve it for later. Secondly, understanding you are on your own can be quite scary. Where once you thought there was a system of help out there in the authorities for food, education, health and finance, is suddenly all on you. That can be isolating, frustrating, and frankly, quite terrifying if you've never considered it before. And thirdly, to understand that there is a threat to your persons, just not the one you maybe thought it was. So technically, that one should be easier. You just need to redirect your fear or worry towards the right target. Not always the case, but can happen. So where do you go once reality starts to unfold and the can of worms is opened? Each person will have their own experience of knowing what was and is coming, and how long they have understood the mechanisms being put in place within society which will lead to one logical outcome. The digital monitoring and enslavement of humanity, one country at a time. They do not care if the cattle are happy. They just want what we can give them and need us to fit into their elaborate plan. Which is why I believe keeping people apart, separated and divided by petty and trivial matters works to their advantage, massively. Because we benefit and flourish in the presence and company of others. Even just being near people is okay for some, getting human energy from each other, recharging and draining each other. That's why we are important. We can also share a range of information with people when in person by way of language, expression, observations, sharing thoughts, ideas and hopes. These are the things they want to monitor and control, as well as your physical way of life. And it cannot be allowed to happen. Misery is a monitored man, I will tell you that now. They monitor you in prison, they put you in isolation in prison, and they have a lack of privacy in prison for a reason, because it is a punishment. So anyone who would truly think that is a good option and way of life for the general population on an ongoing daily basis is not on our side. Which means we need to discuss the can of worms. You know, the huge one getting bigger by the day, which we were laughed at for saying would happen 2 years ago. The one about a dystopian future, governments out of control, and a certain pharmaceutical product being used to bring about illness, injury and death. Yeah, that one. Although I've written many articles about what I thought would happen, we are now watching it actually happen. The heart attacks and other side effects, the takeover of people's lives by way of finance, the shutdown of rights, protests and liberties by governments in various countries. It's all there, right in front of people now. And even the press sector seems to be getting a little jittery, and rightly so. It may be that their time has come and gone to be able to help us now. They too will be thrown under the bus like every industry gradually. They will not need doctors and nurses, as they will have their medipods and personally trained staff. They won't need pilots or police. Robots have already been designed for that. If anything, it will be software engineers who will be needed once it's up and running, if not already. They will have smart cities in place ready to go for the populations they do want to keep, and keep them they will, in a controlled environment under their supervision. Or at least that seems to be what they are hoping for. Almost as if they have filtered through so much inspiration for an apocalypse and disaster that they are counting on using an illusion of one rather than it actually happening. They want people fearful and frightened, scared of their own shadow and looking for a saviour, so that they can present themselves as such. But the ones who ruined you are not the ones to save you. Just remember that.